Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jayadi if you're new here. Today is very exciting because I've decided to make a book recommendations video. If you watched any of my other videos, you know that I absolutely love reading. I adore it. I feel like it teaches you so much about life, allows you to have a lot of time for reflection and introspection. So these are some book recommendations that I've gathered that I believe every person in their 20s should be reading. Now, majority of these books are going to be fiction, with one non-fiction book that I recommended in here. I definitely have way more book recommendations, so if you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe now if you want to see more content like this. And with that, let's get straight into it. Also guys, if you hear some background nature noise, just ignore it because I think that this outdoor vibe is so perfect. It's a Sunday, so I really want to spend time outdoors talking to you guys. The first book recommendation that I have for you guys is called Just Last Night by Hari McFarlane, and I genuinely devoured this book, guys. I read it this year and it's definitely the best one of 2024. Now, this book explores themes of love, loss, self-discovery, and everything else in between. It kind of teaches you about how no human and no relationship is black or white. Everything in life is so complex. People are complex. People in your life are never truly as they seem, but you love them anyway. It follows the protagonist Eve, who's in a friend group with 3 other people. You realize the interpersonal relationships that they all have with each other and how they have such individual dynamics with one another that can honestly cause ripples in friendships but also brings you closer together. Trigger warning for this book is that it does consist grief, and if you're somebody who might get triggered by that, I would definitely be aware of that before I get into this book, because grief is a huge part of the transformation that Eve goes through as the central character, and you're able to relate to her so much. You also learn about how loss can bring out hidden truths within relationships, which can honestly drive you away from people and bring you closer to others, which is such a universal experience that I feel like every individual in their 20s is going to go through at some point or another. And more than anything, Just Last Night also encourages you to value your platonic friendships, how much platonic love can truly mean over anything else. I feel like Hari McFarlane's writing is so funny, so witty, but also has so much introspection to it. Although you feel like you're being entertained throughout the whole time, you genuinely finish this book learning some really important life lessons, and I couldn't recommend it enough to anyone. I did give it 5 stars, genuinely the best book of 2024. The second book recommendation that I have on my list is called The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. You guys have probably heard about this book, definitely not as niche as Just Last Night by Hari McFarlane, because Sylvia Plath is a well-renowned author, and when you read this book you truly understand why. Esther Greenwood is the protagonist of this book, and it's set in the 1950s. It explores like the universal experience we all go through as we finish university and go into the real world, get our first job, and realize that maybe that's not what we wanted to do with our life. It truly is a study about how finding your life's purpose can be such a difficult process and the toll it can have on your mental health. So before you read this book, definitely check the trigger warnings as well, because this is probably the saddest book out of all the ones that I'm going to recommend. All of these books kind of do have themes of mental health and loss, because it really teaches you that no matter what adversity you face in life, you will make it out of it. These stories teach you exactly how to get through that process. A lot of people say that The Bell Jar is a depiction of the spiral of depression that Sylvia Plath went through in her real life. I genuinely believe it. You can see that she's absolutely poured her heart into this book. I would say it is definitely not an easy read. You will deal with some themes in here that will truly challenge you emotionally and mentally. Also studies how societal pressure and inner pressure can combine to a lot of mental health issues when it comes to finding your purpose in life. Although this was written way back in the day, like it's set in the 1950s, these themes are still relevant today, in fact more relevant now than ever. Overall, it showcases a very raw and real depiction of life. I just encourage everybody to read this book because it genuinely is my favorite book of all time, guys. I don't think I have ever read something so impactful in my life. It has truly stayed with me over the years, especially for people who might be finishing uni and going into the real world and struggling to find their place in it. You'll find some very relatable concepts in here, but of course make sure you look at the trigger warnings, and if you're facing any kind of mental health issues by reading this book, definitely reach out to people around you or don't continue with it, because your mental health is priority at the end of the day. And of course, if you're curious what I rated rated this book. I did give it a solid 5 stars. The third book I'm going to talk about today is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I feel like a lot of us would have heard this. If you're into reading books, you might have already read it. I honestly encourage every single person ever to read this, especially as you're in your 20s navigating new relationships. It really encapsulates a coming of age experience of both Connell and Marianne, and I genuinely believe that this book is relatable to both men and women just because how well both of those characters are drawn out. Even as a woman, I felt like I related to Connell's character a lot, especially the struggles he faces with mental health. And if you're not a reader, I even encourage watching the show that's made on this book. It is called Normal People. It has Daisy Edgar-Jones and Paul Mescal, as well as it's set in Ireland, and it's just such a beautiful setting. The whole aesthetic, the ambience of this book is not only encapsulated in words, but it's perfectly captured in film as well. If you watch the short series on Stan, I truly recommend it, even if you're not a reader. I feel like Connell and Marianne as characters truly just live in my heart 24/7. They found a place in there, and out of all the characters that I'm going to talk about, they're probably the most relatable because of the mistakes they make and how they grow from it. If you can't tell already, I rated this book 5 stars. Guys, I don't know what it is about these books. Fourth book recommendation that I have, I actually don't have a physical copy of that book because I listened to it on audio, but it's called 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. I actually truly recommend listening to this on audiobook. I listened to it during a time in my life where I really needed some advice, and genuinely it just feels like somebody is giving you some really profound life advice. It really teaches you about how to tackle human challenges as well as growing your emotional intelligence. And I feel like if you're looking for advice to do with like your professional career, I genuinely recommend this book. All of those essays are very thought-provoking, and they really encourage you to live your life with intentionality all of the time. The essays truly inspire you to prioritize your mental and emotional peace in all professional and personal settings, no matter what challenge you face in life. I'm also genuinely a huge fan of the fact that the essays not only tell you what other people are doing to you, but allow you to reflect on your own actions and see, are you doing this for yourself before expecting things from other people in your life? Really helps you have an emotional breakthrough, which is actually what one of the essays are about. Truly puts into practice how you treat yourself is a reflection of how you treat other people. From what I recall, I did rate this book a 4 stars, 1 star down, only because some of the essays do get a little bit repetitive, but honestly, if you're in need of some really good life advice, it is so worth it still. The 5th and final book on my list is actually Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. This is a Japanese novel. I think it has been translated into English, but it is genuinely such a modern classic, and it is for a right reason. This book is just such an introspection on life. It's so poetic in the way that it's laid out as well. It follows the main character, Toru Watanabe. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He's basically sitting under a tree listening to a song of an old place where he used to go all the time, but he's much older, and he's kind of reflecting on his life back. It's so melancholic yet so beautiful. Really captures the whole concept of nostalgia so well. And the reason why I put this book last as well on my list is that this book really teaches you no matter what obstacle you face in life, you're going to be at that place 10-20 years later looking back and realizing that you made it through it. This book is a genuine reflection of that. The story also explores themes of loss, and I'm sorry guys, that is a common theme throughout all of these books because I don't know, maybe that's what authors like to do to give their characters some adversity. So I would also recommend looking at trigger warnings before reading this book. And one of my favorite characters in this book was Midori. Honestly, she was so funny, so witty, and I feel like she is the light in this book out of all the sadness that comes out of it. Norwegian Wood honestly makes you realize that the years that we're living right now in our 20s are just our formative years. We're going to have growing pains and we're going to face a lot of obstacles, but it is going to make us stronger in the end, and we're going to be able to look back on things in retrospect and realize that everything that happened to us happened for a reason. Such a moving story, and I actually haven't read Murakami's other books, but I've heard they're absolutely amazing, so I definitely want to explore them. But if you're curious about what I rated Norwegian Wood, it was a solid 5 stars, you guys. I loved this book so much. Guys, with that, I will end the video off here. These are my book recommendations that I think every single person should be reading in their 20s. If you haven't read any of these books, definitely go out and get them because they are so worth the money. These novels carry some beautiful stories that will stay with you for a lifetime, and it will teach you very important life lessons. They truly encapsulate universal human experiences that we all go through collectively, and it really teaches you how to get past them, how to reflect on them, and how to learn from them. If you liked my book recommendations video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it around with your friends, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more book recommendations from me. If you guys want to see like romance book recommendations, coming of age book recommendations, fiction, non-fiction, whatever it is, comment down below because I will provide. Also want everyone to comment their favorite book that they have ever read because this video truly did consist of my all-time favorite books. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me because I want to hear from you guys and want to build a little community together. Also, thank you so much to all the people who've been subscribing lately. I'm noticing you and it means the absolute world to me, so feel free to comment down below because I'd love to be friends and I'd love to engage with one another. Other than that, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your week and I'll see you all next time. Bye guys.